I am so excited to share today's recipe with you guys because we're going to be making a keto apple pie with a buttery, flaky keto pie crust. Let's get started. So if you guys take away anything from this video, it should be my keto buttery flaky pie crust recipe because this stuff is amazing. It beats any other keto low carb pie crust that's out there. And the thing that sets it apart from any of the other recipes is that you could actually roll this one out. So it's like regular pie crust. So you can mold it and make those really pretty fluted edges. You can make cutout shapes with them. So it's a lot different and better tasting than those ones that you just press into your pie plate. And it's incredibly flaky and buttery too, especially if you make it right. So let's get started on that pie crust. To start, we're gonna add 2 cups of almond flour to a food processor, 6 tablespoons of coconut flour, 2 teaspoons of xanthan gum, and 1 teaspoon of salt. You wanna pulse this together until it's fully combined. Now I'm gonna have this full recipe for you guys listed down below in the description box with the recipe link. The recipe on my website is just for making 1 pie crust. We're gonna need 2 because we need 1 for the bottom and then 1 for the top for the apple pie. Next, we're gonna add 1 cup of unsalted butter that's chilled and cut up into cubes. Now, I recommend that you chill your butter beforehand, so maybe about like half an hour beforehand. You wanna cube it up into small cubes, put it in the freezer, and then when you come to make it, then you're gonna add this in here. That is the key to making super flaky pie crust, is to keep your butter chilled. You're also gonna need 2 ounces of softened cream cheese, and we're gonna pulse this together just until it forms coarse crumbles. You don't wanna go beyond this stage, just pulse until you have those coarse crumbles. The more you manipulate your dough, the more chance that butter is gonna melt, and you're gonna get more of a like cookie type crust instead of actual flaky pie crust. Next, we're gonna add in 2 eggs and then 1 tablespoon of vinegar. I'm gonna use rice vinegar, but you can use apple cider vinegar as well. Pulse that together again until you get a dough consistency. And now your dough should look like this with chunks of butter in it. Next, we're gonna press that down in between 2 sheets of parchment paper and then press it out into a disc, and I'm gonna refrigerate it for about 15 minutes before I start to roll it out into a pie crust. Once again, I'm doing this just to keep that butter from melting so we get the flakiest pie crust. Before we move on to rolling out our pie crust, I want to take time to thank today's sponsor of this video, which is LMNT electrolytes. You guys have heard me talk about them before, and I love them, especially around this time of year when the weather starts to get colder and it's chilly. I actually like to beef up my electrolyte concentration just to make sure that my body has the optimal amount of electrolytes it needs. They have a wide range of flavors to choose from. There's watermelon, raspberry, they even have a chocolate one, which I really like. And they have a large amount of good quality electrolytes in them. I just like to curl up on the couch and have a glass of electrolytes, especially first thing in the morning when I'm still waking up. If you guys are interested in trying LMNT, you can do so for free. All you have to do is just pay for shipping and handling. This is a one-time offer for US residents only, but you can get their sample pack of 8 different flavors, all for free, and all you have to do is pay shipping and handling. I'll have that link listed down below in the description box for you. Thanks again, LMNT, for sponsoring this video. Now it's time to roll out our pie crust. And since we are making 2 pie crusts, you do want to separate some of your dough. I'm going to use about 1/3 of it for the top of my pie because I'm doing a lattice shape on the top, a crisscross lattice shape, and then 2/3 of it will be for the bottom crust. When it comes to rolling out your pie dough, you just want to roll it in between those 2 pieces of parchment paper and roll it until it's around 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch thick. At this point, we're going to put it back into the refrigerator. I actually put mine back into the freezer just to make sure everything stays nice and chilled. And we can do this for our top crust as well. Moving on to our keto apple pie filling. Now, we're not actually going to be using apples in this recipe because apples have a higher sugar content. Unless you're using like a crab apple, that might be okay, but I recommend using these 2 substitutes instead. You can either use zucchini or chayote. Now, chayote is a type of squash as well, and it actually has a texture that's super crisp like an apple. That's why I like to use it as an apple replacement for many keto recipes. Zucchini you can use too because in the inside it looks like an apple and it has a neutral flavor, so it can take on any sort of flavoring that you're gonna add to it. So either of these vegetables will work. Actually, technically these are fruit because they have seeds, but either of these will work for this recipe. In a large skillet over medium-high heat, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of butter, along with 2 pounds of our zucchini or chayote squash. Now, both of these, I recommend that you peel them beforehand and then just dice them up into little chunks like you would a regular apple pie. And we're gonna cook this in our skillet for a few minutes and then add in some flavorings. So you wanna mix in a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Along with our sweetener, you're gonna be adding 3/4 cup of the sweetener of your choice. Mix that together and we're gonna lower our heat a little bit and we're gonna cook this until our squash has softened. Now, to help thicken this mixture and give it more of that apple pie filling texture, we're gonna add in a 1/2 teaspoon of xanthan gum and 1 teaspoon of arrowroot powder. You wanna sprinkle this over your apple pie filling and let it cook for around 2 or 3 more minutes. Next, we're gonna remove it from the heat, and then to add in a little bit of zest or bite, we're gonna add in 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And then to give it that apple flavor, we're gonna add in some apple extract flavoring drops. I'll have my favorite brand listed down below in the description box for you, but you're gonna need around 2 dropperfuls of concentrated drops or 1 teaspoon of an extract. Mix this together and then set it aside, and now let's assemble our pie. So we're gonna take our bottom pie crust and then put it into our pie plate. I'm gonna mold the edges to make it really fluted and pretty. And now we're gonna add in our apple pie filling. Next, we're gonna lay down our top layer, and I'm just doing a lattice strip layer here. So I'm gonna cut my pie crust into little strips and then crisscross them across my pie. After that, we can brush it with an egg wash to get that nice shiny coat on top. And I just took an egg and I mixed it in with a little bit of water and brushed it on there. And it's insane how much this looks like a real apple pie with actual apples in it. To bake this, we're gonna bake this in a 350-degree oven for around 30 to 35 minutes. You just wanna bake it until your pie crust is golden brown along the edges and on top. Remove it from the oven and let it set. And you can see how amazing this apple pie looks. It smells so good and it tastes like an apple pie too. It's really incredible how the texture from that chayote squash and the zucchini make it look and taste like an apple pie. And this pie crust, you can see how flaky it is, and that's all thanks to those chunks of butter that you guys could see in the pie crust.